Hi. Yeah. It's 3 o'clock in the morning, and I just finished watching Rebel Moon out of a fit of boredom, and oh boy, where do I start with this shit? Okay. I've never done a movie review before. I realize that. This is off the cuff and it's gonna sound rough as hell. And I recognize that too. Um this movie's awful. This movie's legitimately one of the worst films of like we just had this absolute high of Godzilla minus one, which is one of, I think, probably the best movie I've ever seen. Now we've got this thing, this so-called film by Zack Snyder. I it is it is the absolute lowest point I have seen when it comes to cinema as an art form, and I say that without hyperbole. Uh, I say that as somebody who saw Battlefield Earth in theaters. This is probably the Battlefield Earth of the 2020s. I do this is probably worse than Battlefield Earth. Battlefield Earth at least had a semblance of a coherent plot going on. Now, okay, what's the problem? Now, y'all know me. Y'all know I like Warhammer. Uh, I've seen the argument before. Yeah, okay. This movie steals from Warhammer 40K. It steals from it just I'm talking just rips wholesale. Like and files off the serial numbers and says this is ours. Like the aesthetics are Warhammer. The it's got the fucking power swords. It's got I guess Zack Snyder couldn't decide if he wanted the people to carry las guns or bolt guns, so he made some kind of like las bolt guns. Uh, the pistol carried by the protagonist Cora is, I think that was her name. To be fair, they don't say the name. A lot of the characters don't even get their names mentioned until like late after their arrival in the movie, which is always a great sign of quality cinema. But yeah, the ships are Imperium of Man warships, but with round edges. They do exterminatus, where like the meme level of exterminatus, like oh hey, there's a problem here. Let's just blow the planet up. What else? They the ruling human nation is called the Imperium. Uh, it's led by a man named Belisarius, who is sadly not a 12-foot tall half human, half human robot construct. Uh, there's a there's a cult of technophiles. There's there's a organization called I'm not making this up, the Mechanicus Militarum. They didn't know whether to take Adeptus Mechanicus or Astra Militarum, so they kind of just crammed them together. Uh, the weird thing is that I mean the way Zack Snyder like directs this movie. I'll get into like stuff about like I mean there's not much to go into about characters and story. This movie doesn't have much in the way of characterization and story, but it's like it's very clear they're trying to play up the Imperium in this as like racist white supremacist kind of thing, which is hilarious because all the Imperial officers we see are like white dudes, and to my recollection, the only women we see in any of the Imperium cast are the main character, who I'm just gonna there's gonna be spoilers for this. I don't give a fuck right now. Okay, the main character is the main character, the queen of the now deceased king of the Imperium, and their daughter. Are the only women you ever see in the Imperium, and the and the main character isn't white, so everyone else is. So yeah, and she's of course the good one. But yeah, it's it's like a straw man's. It is like the setting is very much a straw man's concept of the Imperium, a straw man's serial numbers filed off version of the Imperium of Man. And if I could call this movie anything, it would be Warhammer 40,000 with no soul. Because that's basically what it is. It has no soul. It is indulgent and masturbatory in a way that's like overwhelming to experience. It almost put me off from finishing the movie. And this is coming from a guy who had fun watching Battleship unironically. So I mean, yeah, what's that tell you? Uh, the plot, I mean, it's Seven Samurai with no substance. I mean, that's all it is. Uh, the main character is some she was like the bodyguard of this princess of the princess girl Issa, who's got like I guess she can heal people, and then she and the king, her dad, and her mom, the queen, were apparently assassinated, and the main character ran and ended up on this backwater planet living with these like farmers. And then the Imperium shows up and is all like, "Hey, we need grain from you people." And kill and the bad guy, this admiral dude who's like the main villain of part 1, because this is a two-parter because of course it's Zack Snyder. Uh the the admiral dude kills the head of the village because he can, and then his soldiers are like dicks unnecessarily. Like they're very much they are evil man because they are evil man who do the evil bad man thing. There is no cohesive there is no cohesive underpinning narrative to any of this. Things just are because they are. Like the king is like the king of the Imperium who Belisarius overthrew by assassinating him, apparently, is equal parts he was equal parts a tyrannical despot who expanded the Imperium's borders through violent, bloody, unnecessary conquest, but also a man who was a good guy who wanted the best for the best for everyone, and was actually a kind soul who like loved people. He's like he's somehow both at the same he was somehow both at the same time. And the Imperium are, they treat the robots of the Mechanicus Militarum like shit for no reason because they're bad. And the soldiers are undisciplined people uh who do horrible things to people because they can, and because they're the bad guys. Like that's it. That's the justification. I don't even know why I'm going into long-winded explanations here. They're bad. They're just bad for no reason, and it comes off as incredibly empty and shallow, and because there's nothing underpinning it. There's no reason to believe they are this way other than that's how they're written. And the main character kills a bunch of soldiers that have been stationed at the village while the bad guy leaves because they try to force themselves on a girl. And one of the soldiers rebels against them too. I kind of lost track of him. The movie kind of forgot he existed. And she decides that the Imperium's just gonna kill them all anyway and take all their shit. So she's like, we need to go find warriors. And that's the Seven Samurai part of the movie, and where they're just going from spot to spot, finding a quirky cast of characters. There's the smuggler guy. He's the first guy they find is a smuggler. Second dude is some kind of I shit you not, he's basically a magical space Native American. I'm not even making that up. That's exactly what his character is. And then the third character is, oh, by the way, the magical space Native American. I don't remember any of these characters' names because they're barely they're not characters. They don't have characters. Everything is informed. I'll get into that in a minute, but he proves his magical Native American status by taming a griffin. Like it just listens to him because it does, because plot. And then they go and they find the dual power sword wielding, no shit, Warhammer power swords. Dual power sword wielding Asian assassin lady with Asian assassin lady music playing in the background as she kills a spider monster in a hive city. Yeah, again with the Warhammer ripoffs. Yeah, this is an actual unironic hive city. And then they go to meet the rebellion, who, in contrast to the Empire, they're all like either brown skinned or, very, very shades of brown and olive versus the almost uniform white of the Imperium, except for, the main character, who's of course a defector. And then basically they just, the smuggler guy's like, hey, I need to make a drop off, and they go to make the drop off, and it's actually betrayal, and he betrays them. And then the one wimpy farmer dude actually, proves to be the only character I liked. He's the stepping stool for Cora, the girl boss protagonist, and then actually nuts up and saves the day. And he ended up being the only character I liked because he was the only character with an actual arc in all of this. And then evil admiral guy gets his ass kicked in a, when I describe this movie as masturbatory, this feels like it's the power fantasy of a bash the fash punch a Nazi kind of Twitter freak. That's exactly what this feels like. It feels so, it just feels so fake. It feels fake and unearned, as the main character just beats the ever loving crap out of this guy. And then of course, it ends, and the villain admiral guy isn't actually dead. He's brought back because of course. And you briefly see Belisarius, the supposed the Emperor Palpatine style character, except he's like, man's got drip. I'll give him that. He's a cool looking guy, but there's nothing to him because we don't know anything about him other than he apparently has magic space powers or something. So, yeah, the movie ends like that, with that, with that guy surviving, and the heroes make it back to Cora's planet, which is, they beat the admiral, so the ship is to leave, so they're safe, I guess. I don't know. This movie's a disaster. It looks awful. Like, the trailers made it look better than it actually does. There are television shows with lower budgets that look better than this. It's what else? There's nothing to the characters. You meet a character, they're said this is character. Character can do this. Your info dumped with their backstory, and then they move on. You were told this great brilliant general who they need to recruit. And he's like, everyone's like, he's the brilliant general something, I don't remember. And we never see him do any brilliant command things. He just yells and shoots a gun a lot. And we're like, this is, okay, I'm not making this part up. This is Blood Axe, the leader of the brother of the leader of the rebellion. And he goes out like a champ, I'll give him that much. He fucking dies in the first movie, but, they try to make it like this tragic, heroic sacrifice. It's like, we met you 10 minutes ago, and we know nothing about you. And so, yeah, it's just empty. And there's the Asian swordswoman, and again, her and the Native American guy, I guess, I don't know what else to call him other than that, the magic space Native American. They with those two, they lean really hard on stereotypes, almost to a uncomfortable degree. And like even for me, and I'm normally someone who doesn't give a shit about that kind of stuff. So I mean, consider that telling. And yeah, the movie just ends like that and says there's a end of part one, and it just yeah, it was. It's 2 hours 15 minutes of nothing. It's 2 hours and 50 minutes of basically just nothing. A completely borrowed point for point plot plastered over a direct ripoff aesthetically of Warhammer 40,000, right up to looks and terminology and full blown concepts. And I know people are going to be like, well, Games Workshop ripped people off. Games Workshop did a couple unoriginal things. The most you can maybe point the finger at for them are the Arbetes, who are like just Judge Dredd, and using the 8-pointed Star of Chaos, which was created by Michael Moorcock, basically. But they took concepts and made it their own thing. Like, yeah, Dune has a God Emperor and Navigators. Warhammer 40,000 has a God Emperor and Navigators. But they did both in their own way. They made it its own thing. Lifting concepts from other people's work is not unusual in writing. It's not a problem. It's how you do it. The problem with Rebel Moon compared to say Warhammer when it comes to borrowing ideas is that Rebel Moon it rips them off wholesale. It's not done originally. It's done in that style of, can I copy your homework? And they did a really shit job of making it look like it wasn't a copy. And I feel like the aesthetics is what Snyder is riding on with this movie, and they aren't enough to carry it. Not when the movie goes out of its way to, tell its story through 10, 15-minute info dumps, or have the main character trauma dump on the on a character 8 minutes into the film, and you have no context as to why you should care. Like, lady, you're talking about, oh, love was beaten out of me. I'm a creature of war. And it's like, we don't know anything about you. We can't couch this in anything. So we can't care as viewers. And just the movie is like that. It'll just stop. It'll just stop and go on and on about why something is important, or to set up like background about the setting, rather than doing like, say, Star Wars or Warhammer or other science fiction settings do, which is introduce it in a organic flow of information with the narrative to make you have, the capacity to absorb it and begin to care. The movie utterly fails to make you care. And between all this and everything I've mentioned, yeah, I'm just Battlefield Earth of the 2020s. We're only 3 years in and we've got it already. It's like I said earlier, it's Warhammer 40k with no soul. And that's really that's really all I can think up to say about this movie. It is awful. Don't see it. Don't waste your time. Still better than anything Disney put out for the new Star Wars, for their new Star Wars. And yeah, that's my review. Yeah, thank y'all for watching. I hope I managed to get this to you in time so you avoid watching Rebel Moon. Take care, everyone, and later.